This is our informational session on the merit system. And my name is Valentina Pertel, and I'm the Provost of North Orange Continuing Education. Welcome to the Anaheim campus. Before I introduce our moderator for today, I just wanted to remind everyone that the voting day is July 18th, and you should be reporting to your assigned location where you typically work to attend the voting poll and to cast your vote. And please don't forget to bring your valid photo ID with you. With that said, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Professor Josh House. He is the tenured faculty and the professor of forensics. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate this format, and so what I'm really just here to do is to maintain the format. And so we'll have 20 minutes from CSEA over here from Fee and Michael, and then we'll have 20 minutes from Robert Samus, our Director of HR from Citrus College, and then we'll have our 20-minute question and answer period. And so in order to make sure that we keep order and don't start talking over each other, it's really important that the questions come from those cards, right? So if you have a question, write it down on your card. We'll have people who are collecting them. If you have another question, please use another card. We're just going to do one question per card. So if you write two questions on your card, I'm just going to read the first one anyway, right? So go ahead and give it on the second card, and that way we'll make sure that we get an answer. We'll get through as many of your questions as we can, and any of the questions that we're unable to get to will be answered in an FAQ that will be made available also. So if your question, we run out of time to answer your question here live, we will still have your question answered afterwards. So we'll go ahead and turn things over then and start with our 20 minutes from CSEA.
Good afternoon, everyone. So when CSEA asked me to do this, I basically asked, well, what's in this for me? And they said, Panda. And I got excited. I said, oh, I got a Giant Panda on this? Really? They said, no, Giant Panda Express. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it anyway. But that's why I'm here, for food. No, that's not really why I'm here. That's they're giving me food. But I'm here because I believe in this. I am a classified employee just like you. Just like the vast majority of you in this room, I'm a classified employee. I work in a school in the IT department as a network systems specialist. I serve students, I serve the community. Thank you. And I love what I do. And I'm here to talk to you, and I'm here to ask you a question. And I want you to keep this in the back of your mind. If this was such a terrible thing, why would the district be telling you this is a terrible thing? Why would the district be fighting so hard? If it's such a terrible thing, why would I be standing up here and basically telling you something I don't believe in? Something that has always worked for me. Something that is not always perfect, but it is fair, it is impartial, it is transparent, and I'm still up here telling you about this today. This works.
Check this out.
Is it on? There you go. Perfect. Thank you. So why I'm here? Because I want to improve the lives of our members. That's almost all of you of CSEA, our students who we serve in our communities. That's why I'm here. I want to make things, help you make things better. I want to improve things. I want to make sure that you have additional protections on top of what CSEA has already done and is continuing to do for you. I want to make sure that this works for you. And I want to tell you how it works for me. So my name is Fee Tran, and I'm a proud CSEA member. I am a member of Ocean Views Chapter 375, and I'm also a member of the Merit System Committee. I've been working in education for over 12 years, and I love what I do. I truly love what I do. And like I said, I'm a classified employee. So I'm going to turn this over to Michael and let him introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Brand. I'm the Senior Labor Relations Representative for CSEA over the San Diego field office. I've worked at a community college for close to 10 years at Mount San Jacinto College before I began to work for your union, and I'm a former classified employee.
So why are we here? We're here because we want to make sure that you get the information that you need. We want to make sure that we can tell you what the facts are, what my experiences are, and I can tell you that this works. And so I want to turn it over to Michael to tell you why we're here.
So your chapter reached out to us. So I don't want to waste, we're under a pretty good time crunch here. I don't want to waste a lot of time telling you problems you already know. So you know what you deal with here. And so what we're here is to provide an additional layer to provide some protection for classified employees in this district. It has nothing to do with faculty, has nothing to do with administration, other than us saying, wait a minute, one individual should not be judged during execution. Both parties should present to a neutral commission, and the neutral commission should make a decision. You're going to hear a lot today. You're going to hear about the contract, and hey, you already have all these rights. It's not about any of that. It's about one thing, making sure we have a neutral hear us out. And so the chapter asked us to come forward to explain what these additional protections are. We know that job descriptions haven't been updated in a long time. This process will help fix that problem. And then we want to make sure that we have an uninvolved third party overseeing hiring, firing, classification, and reclassification. Someone with no dog in the fight who's going to help the parties resolve these issues on your behalf.
So what is the merit system? I'm not going to read that whole thing. That's way too long for me to read, and I'd make you snort. But I will say is this. The merit system is a system where classified employees are hired, retained, and promoted based on merit and fitness. So I want to show of hands. How many people here have known somebody, anytime, doesn't have to be here at this district, anytime in your life where you know somebody got hired because they knew somebody? Somebody you work with was hired because they knew somebody. There's quite a few of you. There's a few of you. And some of you others may like, do I really want to answer that question? Yeah. I won't do anything. Don't worry. I'm good.
We know.
So the system where somebody can basically waltz in and basically say, oh yeah, I'm qualified. Great. You have a job. You say you're qualified? I believe you. And then they turn out, that's great. But in this system, you have to show somebody that you're qualified. You have to show them that you know the job. You have to show them that you can do the job. And so that's what the merit system. There's additional protections, which we'll talk about. There's additional protections for your contract. And again, a more fair hiring process and a more fair system for you and your coworkers and our public. So how it works, there's a personnel commission that is appointed that is part of the merit system. There are 3 commissioners. One is appointed by the board of trustees, one is appointed by CSEA, and not me, not Michael, not the merit system committee, you, the members of chapter 167. Not your executive board, you. You appoint one of those commissioners. And then those 2 commissioners jointly appoint one person. So board appoints one person, CSEA appoints one person, who's my CSA and you, and those 2 commissioners appoint one person, so there's a balance of power. Those 3 commissioners must be neutral. They must make decisions impartially. They need to listen to both sides. CSEA has to listen to the district side, and the district side has to listen to the CSEA side. And they must make decisions based on facts. Who are the commissioners? Not employees of your district. They cannot be employees of your district while they're serving as a commissioner. They must live in the district boundaries. They cannot be a board member here or anywhere else. They can't be a school board member, a community college board member. They can't be a county board member. They must not be a member of any school board. And they must be a known adherent to the principle of merit system. It can't just be anyone. It has to be somebody who shows, yes, I believe that classified employees should be hired impartially. Yes, I believe that they should be treated fairly. Yes, I believe that their contract should be respected. Yes, I believe in a fair hiring process. They must show that they believe in all those things. And in those 3 commissioners, they hire one personnel director that is not responsible or doesn't report to the district, nor CSEA. They must respond to the commissioners. The commission is an independent body, totally independent. So with that, that's one of the advantages of the merit system. It is an independent commission that allows you to voice your concerns without any worry of someone coming down on you. You can voice your concerns in the open, and they must listen to you. They must at least hear what you have to say in the open. It is an independent body. It says that in the education code, in law. And the personnel director must justify all of his or her decisions to the commission. And the commission must also make their decisions all in public. So everything that happens in HR now has to be done in public. Has to be addressed. There's no set of eyes on classified HR. And that's a huge problem.
So one of the huge pros that you'll get in a merit system that you don't necessarily get in a conventional district is you get an outside body that does the actual decision as it relates to discipline. Currently in your process, you go to your scully officer, who's generally the same person helping draw up the charges. And then you tell them your side of the story, and if you don't come to an agreement, you go to a hearing officer. That hearing officer has no binding decision whatsoever. That decision is advisory to the board, and that board, or your board, the district board, will make the final decision. It is what it is. It's done at that point. They can listen to the hearing officer or not listen to the hearing officer. And I've seen it go both ways. What we're saying is that's a fine system. We should be able to continue to go to the board and to our elected officials. And we're saying we should add one additional layer, because your jobs are protected by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. There's no higher legal infirmity. We want a third party neutral who has the ability to make a binding decision on both parties. A binding decision on both parties. When it comes to your job, we need to know there's someone free of prejudgment, free of bias. They're not involved in whatever drama is going on to make a decision based on the law and the law alone as to whether or not you get to keep your job.
Another advantage of the merit system is the fair hiring process, and I can tell you that this works. Because in every single merit system district that I've ever applied for, I always got to the final interview. And by the way, having a merit system does not always mean written testing. Everyone says merit system, oh, I have to go through an exam, A, B, C, D. No, I have been through merit system exams where there is no written exam, and I was still ranked. I've been first ranked, I've been second ranked. And I've seen people that hire the third rank as well. So just because you're not in the top spot doesn't mean you're the most qualified. That just means you show that you have shown the skills. You've shown somebody, yes, I know this job. Yes, I know this job. I've shown somebody that this process has declared me qualified. Every non-merit district that I've ever applied for is lucky to get a phone call, lucky to get an email. You're going to stand up here and for me to tell you I'm not qualified. I love my job. I've been doing it for 5 years and been in education for 12. I know I'm qualified. I don't need somebody to know somebody in the district to get a job. And I can show the personnel commission, I can show the hiring authority that I know my stuff. So, and if you don't believe me, every personnel commission has to provide an annual report, and they must be transparent about all their statistics. If you want to call a personnel commission office and ask about their hiring, you can call them and they'll tell you how it works. You can go to the commission meeting and ask, and they'll tell you how it works. So it's all transparent, it's all fair. Nobody can be hired unless the personnel commission says they're qualified. And how do they know they're qualified? Because CSE and the district have already said, this is what we believe are the qualifications. We've already agreed, CSE and the district have already agreed on the qualifications. Now it's for a third party to make sure that those qualifications are followed, that people are hired from those qualifications. So that's a huge advantage of the merit system. Another thing, up-to-date job descriptions, like we said earlier, 16 years. You are doing more now than you probably did 16 years ago. You are probably doing different things than you did 16 years ago. Some job description might say, I work in IT, might say Windows XP. Well, you don't use Windows XP anymore. That's gone, bye-bye. It's Windows 10 now. Windows 7 is already on its way out. So if your job description still says Windows XP, yeah, you're probably doing more now. And so the Personnel Commission has the authority to basically say, yeah, they are doing more. Here's your new job title. Here's a recommended salary, which is usually higher. CSE in the district, here's what we find. Somebody to enforce something that you already know, you already believe in, you can do. So the job descriptions, that goes along with the reclassification process. I have been through the reclassification process. It works. I know that there are hiring committees here and reclassification committees. The only person you can go to if there's something wrong with that committee is the district. And if the district's not doing what the reclassification committee is already doing, then who can you go to? The board. And so if that's not working, now you have a personnel commission that can basically tell the district, hey, they are doing the work. They are doing the job. Yes, we believe that they are doing, you must do this. And so as far as job descriptions and reclassifications, they will go through a review process and they will be reviewed.
So this is important. So you're going to hear conversations about, hey, this commission has no real authority because you have all these things in your collective bargaining agreement. So I want to be clear. CSEA would be the last entity in the world to come up in front of you and find a way to invalidate your contract. It boggles the mind. And so what I say is this. Our intent in coming forward to you to bring this vote is to get you an additional layer of mutual protection. It's not to change anything. It's not to cancel anything. The law's the law. That's not going to change. The contract's the contract. That's not going to change without you agreeing to it through your bargaining team and through your ratification, how we do all our contract changes. And so as you hear this, keep this in mind. The reclassification plan. So when a commission says, hey, wait a minute, we need to, say district wants to start a new job. Districts have the authority under the education code to establish a position. Basically say, hey, I want to get into the business of doing X. They have the ability to do that. It's a unilateral unfettered right, subject to bargaining things within scope, wages, hours, terms and conditions, government code 3543.2. And so they have the ability to do that. What the commission's going to say is, okay, you have the ability to do that, but we have the ability to classify and reclassify. So we get to decide where that job goes on the salary schedule. And they're going to make a recommendation to both parties, CSEA and the district. It has an anchoring effect. They're going to make a recommendation to the parties and say, this is where we believe this fits, at which point we bargain like we've always bargained. And we will come to an agreement like we've always come to an agreement. So here's the difference. They use GAAP. The Personnel Commission has the ability to do classification and reclassification studies annually. And so they can benchmark all your surrounding districts. And so when they set that anchoring effect by saying, this is where we're going to place it on the salary schedule in the hierarchy of ranks, you automatically get that bump before we start the bargain. That's a huge benefit. And I challenge anyone to say it's not true. There's a decision. It's called Sonoma. It's a perf decision.
And also to remember that CSA also does have the salaries rate, and that's additional data, but that's only done once a year. So things could change, and districts don't have to opt into it. So they may not have the data that we need. So the Personnel Commission could also do its own current salaries rate to make sure that we're getting the best data. And again, all that has to be done in the open. And so that goes to my next point, transparency and accountability. Where else can you go to a department that is dedicated to you, solely to the classified employees that do the work every single day for our students, for our community. Every single day, you are dedicated to doing paperwork, to running payroll, to doing IT, all these operations, to cleaning the toilets and cleaning the classrooms. Yes, we do that too. An HR department that is dedicated to you with the Personnel Commission. All of the operations for classified are subject to public review. They go through the Brown Act. There are no secret decisions. There's nothing done behind closed doors. Everything is done in public, and you can voice your concerns in public. Personnel Commission makes sure that we aren't forgotten. They're dedicated to us. And they're appointed by the stakeholders in the district, CSEA, and those two appoint one person for a balance of power. So there's a lot that comes with the merit system that makes sure that everything is done in the open, that nothing can be done behind in secret. Promotions. I've been through the promotional process. I was told that I would never get the job. They kept telling me, somebody's already chosen for that job. And that person couldn't get through the exam. And again, there's a skills exam, there could be a written exam, there could be a combination, but I would want to know that that person can do the job. I want somebody to show me that they can do the job that I already do now. You guys know your job better than anyone else. And so none of you in this room would ever have to retest for your position. Once the merit system comes in, you will not have to retest for the job that you have now. So when I came in, I was basically told I would never get it, and I got the job. Because I was able to show that I was qualified. And that was a promotion. That was a promotion, so it does work. And if there are enough of you that are qualified for the position that are open, the district has to pick from that list. They have to pick from either a promotional list or, by the way, you get seniority points just by virtue of you holding your job. You get additional points. So you already have a leg up against people who are applying outside if the recruitment was open to everyone.
So I want to make a point. You'll notice in CSEA's presentation, we stand by what we're saying. And so when I leave, you don't have to say because Michael said so. On every one of our slides, you either have the PERB case for what we're talking about or the ed code. The law's the law. The law's the law. And so here's the law where we reference where personnel commissions will set the initial placement on the hierarchy of the salary schedule. And the parties, the union and the district, don't have the ability to collude against them. The contract must always be respected as the highest legal document that we operate under. Oh, that's what I just said. So here's the ed code where that says they're not allowed to do anything that doesn't go through the bargaining process. So 3543.2, they have to give us notice when these new job descriptions come out. The parties have to bargain it. It will come back to you for ratification, like always.
So we want checks and balances. I've talked about this before. Entire system to support specific laws, and commissioners can be removed. It's not an unlimited term. They're not seated there forever. And if you're concerned that they are, well, there are also the board of trustees also are basically re-elected. They're often run unopposed. So there's that as well. So we just want somebody to be able to have that check on the board of trustees to make sure that they are doing their job. And so no matter what you hear, this isn't about replacing your rights. Your grievances will not go away. Right to file a lawsuit won't go away. You will gain the ability to go to the commission, and this is why we're advocating for the merit system. So we encourage you to vote yes on July 18th for better protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. While they're loading our PowerPoint, I got the clicker from sometimes. Thank you very much. And I'll try to work this side of the room since that side will go back and forth. Let me give you my background. My name is Robert Sanders. I'm currently the Director of Human Resources at Citrus Community College District. Your neighbors far to the north. I started my professional career as a CSEA labor representative and then went to law school. Became an attorney. I have worked in merit system districts. I have represented merit system districts, both community college districts and also K-12 districts. And for a while, I served as the CSEA appointee to a personnel commission in Glendale Unified. So as we're bringing this up, I want to start and ask you to think about a couple of things, because you heard the presentation, and there's not a lot that I really disagree with what you heard, although there's some nuances that are significant that I'll try to point out. Nothing is going to change. That's what you just heard. Your rules, your rights, nothing is going to change. And that's absolutely correct, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. So what do you gain? So ask yourself while you listen to my presentation, what will you gain from having a merit system district? What will your colleagues gain? The basic assumption of merit systems is that somehow they've come up with a magical formula that will cure any unfairness in the hiring process or the promotional process. But I can tell you, having managed a human resources office for many, many, many years, that the staff work really hard to ensure that the hiring process is done according to the rules, is done fairly, and that your process that you have right now gives you input into who is hired. So ask yourself, what is this three magical people board going to do for us? It's not a panacea, and as I think you'll hear in my presentation, it actually is necessary and relevant today.
So you turn, let's maybe try that.
The side should be green, not red.
It should be green, right? Oh, let me see.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, go ahead and try it now. There you go.
There we go. All right. So just a real brief background for merit systems. They came about because in the mid-1930s, it was pretty bad in terms of how government employment practices were done. It pretty much was the case where you paid political candidates to get a job, or it was because you knew a certain politician that you got your job. You didn't have to compete, you didn't have to fill out application, you weren't interviewed by your peers. That system was wrong, and the merit system came in, what was called the civil service, came in to kind of correct that. Today, there are only 5 out of the 73 community college districts that actually have a merit system. The last one to become a merit system was Long Beach City College back in 1978. I'll ask you to keep that date in mind, 1978, because there's a reason why no community college district has become a merit system since that date. In fact, the opposite, several have left. So, a lot has changed since the mid-1930s. I wasn't around, most of us didn't work at that time. The rules have changed. We have Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that guarantees us to be free from discrimination and creates a fair hiring process. We have the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, which at a state level does that. We have the Educational Employment Relations Act, which is the collective bargaining law that allows us to form unions and negotiate contracts. We have the California Education Code, which contains a lot of rights for employees, rights that CSEA for a long time throughout its history fought to get into the Education Code. And you have board policies and administrative procedures that apply to you if you're not in a bargaining unit. And then you also have this long document called a collective bargaining agreement that really does, for those of you in the bargaining unit, sets out all of your rights and protections. So remember I mentioned that date in 1978? Well, collective bargaining came in for schools and community college districts right around 1978, 1979. That's when it all got started. Your rights to form a union and negotiate a contract were secured. So this idea that a merit system needs to protect you and establish work rules really is a day gone by because you have that protection now from a union. And that's why I would suggest to you that since 1978, no community college district has adopted a merit system. I want to talk a little bit about the hiring process because it gets a little confusing and I think it's important to understand. Now, all of you have your jobs. You're not all that concerned necessarily from an individual standpoint as to how a person from the outside gets a job. But what I'm going to describe for you also applies to promotional opportunities. So contrast what I'm about to tell you with what is the current situation, and that is, if you are interested in a promotion, you can make that interest known, and you are interviewed by a committee that consists of your peers, in part, before the district goes to the outside to advertise for that position. That's the current status. So in a merit system, the whole idea of hiring or promotion is you have to establish your fitness, your merit. And that's done by rating you. And it can be done by rating you on a written examination, a practical demonstration of skill, just an evaluation of your application, or an appraisal interview panel. The important thing to keep in mind here is that you have to be rated so they can establish what are called, it's called the rule of 3 ranks. Typically, interviews consist of a written examination and an oral appraisal interview. You don't always have to have a written examination, but the trend is to do that, and that is the most common, even on promotions. So you take the written exam, the Personnel Commission Director, who is hired by the Personnel Commission, and only reports to the Personnel Commission, makes a determination what the pass rate will be. If there are a lot of applicants for that job, they set a higher passage rate to lower the number of people who can go forward. So let's say they make that passage rate 80%. And then the appraisal interview. Your peers aren't involved in that process. Now they bring outside individuals in who then rate your performance during your interview. And you're given a percentage score. And those two scores then are, if you pass the written exam, are then combined to give you a total percentage score. Now, everyone with the same percentage score is placed on the same rank. So, for example, rank 1 is 95%. Everyone who has a 95% or greater is placed in that rank. The second rank could be everyone with a score of 85% to 90. And then the third rank would be somewhere around like 75 to 80%. So there are multiple people in each three of the ranks. That list then gets certified by the commission as what's called an eligibility list, those names that are given to the district to hire from. I don't know about you, but what is inherently fair about an arbitrary point system? And what makes that more fair than what you currently have where your peers get to assess you? Because how can you determine, let's say that the lowest rank, the third rank, is going to be at a cutoff of 80%. Those who are at 79% don't go forward. Can you tell me that someone who tested in at 79% is somehow unqualified for the position based on 1 percentage point? No, you can't do that. Hiring is not a scientific process. It's not something you can do mathematically. It requires judgment. It requires opportunities for individuals to show that they have the expertise to do the job. There is nothing in the merit system rules that enhances what you currently have. In fact, I would argue to you what the merit system provides is less fair and puts up artificial barriers in a process that ought not to be. And just as a side, this whole idea that the merit system makes a hiring process ultimately fair. I'm sure every one of you in this room got your job because you were the best qualified, not because you paid someone off, not because there was favoritism, but because you were the best qualified. And you probably, if you were to test and you didn't test very well on a particular area, you could be excluded from that process. I don't think it's fair. All right, Personnel Commission rules. This is an important point. I think my colleague said it very well. This is an area where nothing absolutely can change. Personnel Commission has no authority to adopt any rules and regulations that will contradict your collective bargaining agreement. None whatsoever. So let's take a couple of examples. Dismissals or disciplinary action overall. Most of you, no one in this room is probably ever going to face this issue, but it's important to understand what your rights are and what might change in the merit system this year. In your collective bargaining agreement, there is a lengthy article that deals with how disciplinary action is taken. It ends with the right of an employee who is facing disciplinary action to have a hearing before a hearing officer or the Board of Trustees. I don't know of any Board of Trustees at community colleges that ever hears these matters on their own. Usually give that authority to a hearing officer. The decision of the hearing officer comes back to the board for final action. I've been involved in employment issues now for over 30 years, and I have never seen a Board of Trustees reverse its own hearing officer on a recommendation for disciplinary action. Rarely happens. In a merit system, the Personnel Commission will hire that hearing officer, and that person's decision goes to the Personnel Commissioners. Now, just because you have 3 individuals that are called Personnel Commissioners doesn't make them any more inherently fair or capable of making a rational decision than your elected board of trustees. In fact, the commissioners are not even beholden or even subject to the electorate at all, where your board of trustees is. In any event, if either an employee disagrees with the personnel commission decision or the board of trustees decision, there's an absolute right to go to court to challenge that. But here's the real solution. If that is a significant issue to all of you, if that's a significant issue in the district, your union has the absolute right to negotiate a binding decision on the board of trustees. But they haven't done that. And I'm sure for a lot of reasons, in the give and take of collective bargaining, but you're not unprotected. If you feel that is a significant issue, you can do that through collective bargaining. So where would you rather put your emphasis? With your union and your rights under a contract, or a personnel commission that you don't even know who they're going to be, or a personnel commission director, you don't know who that person is going to be. Let me talk about job descriptions and classifications. The content of your job description and the minimum qualifications in that job description are mandatory subjects of bargaining. So nothing can be changed. A personnel commission director cannot change your job descriptions. Right? That's only something that can be done between negotiations with the union and the district. You have in your contract a process for reclassification. So if any of you currently believe that your job duties that you're performing are inconsistent with your job description, you have the right to request a review, and that review goes to a reclassification committee, which contains your peers. And that's decided. If any of these rights in your contract are ever violated, or not adhered to, or misapplied, you can file a grievance. And that grievance goes to an arbitrator that does make a decision that is binding on the board of trustees. So this idea that the personnel commission is this watchdog, this third group that's going to make sure that everything that you have as rights are protected is absolutely not true, because you have that right in your collective bargaining agreement. You have a binding decision, not just a third group of three people making a decision that you have no idea how they're going to decide. Let's see if there's any other issue that I wanted to go into.
Yeah, just over 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I spent my time, I hope, trying to show you where merit systems really are not necessary. They're not evil. The district is not suggesting that. I would certainly not suggest that. In fact, I told the district, if I want to do this presentation for you, I'm not going to get up there and say personnel commissions, merit systems are horrible. They're not. There are some places where they work okay. It's just in this day and age, they're not necessary. They had their time. Prior to 1978, it was probably not a bad idea. You don't have that same issues anymore to substantiate the expense of a personnel commission. If you look at community college district personnel commissions, cost to run a commission ranges anywhere from $600,000 to $1.3 million per year. I've heard before my colleagues say that the cost of a merit system is about 0.5% of your total expenditures in your budget. Well, here at this district, that's $1.5 million. It's a lot of money. So the commission would have to hire staff. They have to hire a personnel commission director. They would need a staff because if you ask your colleagues to work in human resources, they're already overworked and they can't take on all these additional tasks of doing eligibility lists. So they're going to need more staff to do that. So that's where the costs really start coming in. There isn't a lot of oversight of your personnel commissioners. They're elected, they're appointed for 3 years. During that 3 years, you really cannot remove them, although they can be changed after that. And if you vote in a merit system district, you are going to have that commission for at least 5 years before you can vote them out. All right, here are some common concerns with the merit system. The testing pass rates and percentage scores for top 3 ranks are arbitrarily established, and I talked about that. There are no rules that say what is a fair score on either an interview or a written exam. Once you start attaching numbers and making this a mathematical process, you now have strayed from the fairness of that process. It doesn't make it more fair. In fact, I think it makes it less fair. Testing often prevents qualified current employees from being hired and promoted. There is no requirement that the Personnel Commission do what are called promotional-only exams. In fact, if they believe that there'll be too few applicants for a promotional opportunity, they are required to do what's called an open and competitive exam and a promotional exam. And those two lists are merged. So right now, as a promotional opportunity, you have the right to compete for that without the outside applicant influence. In the merit system, it could be, where you are competing and being rated against outside applicants as well as internal. Now, they can do promotional only, but only in the limited circumstances. The process takes time. My experience has been in merit system districts that the hiring process takes about 3 to 5 months, if not more, longer to do it than in a normal non-merit system district. I have seen some districts where, in order to get eligibility lists scored and the appeals handled and the commission to adopt them, by the time they start advertising for a position, it's over a year. So there are issues in terms of the timeliness that this process requires. Now, and I'm sorry that you didn't get districts to tell you that you were qualified, although you didn't go forward in the process. I will tell you at Citrus College, and I'm sure it's the same here, everyone who applies gets notice of why they didn't go forward. We treat people with dignity. That doesn't require a personnel commission to tell us to do. That's done right now. And lastly, there is interference with human rights and obligations. So this point, for example, that was made that the commission will establish classification rankings. You already have a salary schedule. You already have rankings of your classifications. You already have job families. Those are negotiable. So if the commission comes in, and this is where one of the issues where commissions and districts tend to get in legal arguments over, is they come in and they say, well, we're going to reestablish a job family. Well, we're going to set the relationship between this classification and another higher classification different. That's the role of your union and the role of you in negotiations. So if they have that authority, it is really not going to apply to you because you already have a structured salary schedule in your contract. And I'm going to wrap up. Thank you. And I think we've hit all the points. And I look forward to your questions and to give you some frank answers.
Yeah, that's why I brought this up. I'm going to have more things than I've got hands sold. We'll get this up here. Okay, so thank you for those presentations. We're going to move to the question and answer period. And again, if you've got a question as it pops up, we'll please resist the urge to raise a hand and start talking. We'll get everything down on cards. We're going to answer the questions in the order that they're received. We're going to start with one side first, and the next question we'll have the other side get an opportunity to answer first. For every question, we'll have a minute for each side to answer, but we're going to stop it at that and not have back and forth. And so if one of the exchanges leaves you with further questions, again, please get another card and get your question down, and we'll make sure that we get that question answered. Okay, so matter to you before we start? Okay, we'll start our first question over here. So the question says, the cost of the merit system is substantial. How will we cover the cost as a district if we are already in a massive deficit?
Thank you. So the average cost for merit systems up down state is 0.5% of the budget. 0.5, not even 1. So this year we know already we've gotten Gavin Newsom's budget. It says 280 million for community colleges, 3.26% COLA. The other thing is, we have an existing staff. And let me tell you CSEA's position. It's going to be that we utilize that existing staff. We should be utilizing our people and giving our people opportunities. And that's what we're all about, what we're fighting for.
It also says, like I said earlier, when the merit system comes in, if it's voted in, when it's voted in, you all keep your job. Nobody loses their jobs in the merit system. It actually says that you all become permanent staff under the merit system. Nobody retests to that position. So you will keep your job.
So I want to make it very clear. When the state sends money to our districts, there is no allocation from merit system. There's no additional money for that. The amount of money that comes in the budget act goes to all the things that we have to do, what the services we provide for our students and our salaries and collective bargaining. It is costly, and it comes out of the general fund.
Josh, can you read the question again, because I want to make sure I actually answer the question.
Right, so it says the cost of the merit system is substantial. How will we cover the cost as a district if we are already in a massive deficit?
So the answer is the cost will be covered out of the general fund. There is no extra money. With the college of our size, it's probably going to be about $1.5 million, and the money that's spent on a personnel commission will not be able to be used elsewhere. Additionally, our current staff do not perform those functions of testing, setting eligibility lists, and so they would not be able to be appointed. Additionally, they can only be appointed off an eligibility list.
Okay, so the next question then, we'll start back over here. And this question says, what benefits does the merit system offer if most items are already covered under the CBA?
Short answer, none. Unless you think that some arbitrary statistical way of doing exams for hiring is so much better than what you currently have for promotional and hiring opportunities. And even then, that's questionable.
Robert, read the question again, please.
Sure, it says, what benefits does the merit system offer if most items are already covered under the CBA?
If you think that it's important to spend $1.5 million to allow employees who are being disciplined to be heard by a third-party commission, then that would be the only thing that would be additional for you. All the other mandatory subject of bargaining is covered in your contract.
And to add to Julie, if that is a big issue for you, you can change that in your collective bargaining agreement. You don't need a merit system to do that.
All right, thank you.
So a couple things. If they're willing to do that, we have our pen. We can sign that today. CSEA's all in. So your job is protected by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. So you've heard a great presentation from Robert about how we have a binding neutral decision for a grievance. There's no protection under the 14th Amendment for a grievance, but there is for your job. Why do we treat a grievance better than we treat your job? That's what we get out of the merit system, and that is what we get when we move to a personnel commission. That is powerful.
All right, thank you. So the next question is asking for some data and some numbers. It says, what data or stats are available to show that the merit system is necessary? Start with
Your own experience. CSEA as an organization doesn't make this vote. Your district as an organization does not make this vote. You do. You live it, you know it. I don't need to give you an arbitrary statistic. Do you want a process that's guaranteed by law to be free of prejudgment or bias? And do you want outside neutral to make these final binding decisions on your job if something were to unfortunately happen? CSEA's position is that's a benefit for our members and for all classified employees. And if you're a classified manager, you actually get better benefits through this, because you don't have to go to the same person who's charging you with discipline for help. You get to go to a third party. That's fair.
And I just want to also say that personnel commissions are required to publish annual reports. You can always call personnel commissions to get staff that have to make those public. Non-merit just don't have to make those public.
Data and statistics.
So there are no data and statistics that are going to help you probably make up your mind on this issue because it's not a data or statistic driven issue. The only data you have in front of you is your collective bargaining agreement and your board policies and administrative procedures, and these set out all of your rights. I'm a firm believer in collective bargaining. I'm a firm believer that each and every one of you ought to support your union, participate in your union, and make sure they're negotiating for you things in your contract that you want. If that's not happening, you need to work with your union to make sure it does.
So some data and statistics, it was on one of our slides. Only 5 out of 73 community college districts have adopted the merit system. Also, one has not been adopted since 1978. Some other statistics, which you can research for yourself on the California School Personnel Commissions Association website, is that more districts are leaving the merit system than joining, including Desert Sands, Los Banos, Banning, South Sacramento, South Lake Tahoe, Laguna Segura, and Apple Valley. And the report is called Report and Lessons Learned from Recent Merit System Losses. So those are the statistics.
Thank you. We're going to let people finish their sentences when we get to the end of time. So we're okay. All right, so this next question, again, we'll start back over here, says TEAs, temporary employment agreements, hourly and students hired by the hundreds to help divisions operate. What will happen to this category?
Great. So student employment does not get impacted whether you have a merit system or not. That operates independently of Merit System Commission rules. You have in your administrative procedures rules that set forth when a person can be hired as a student employee. Your education code provisions do that as well. You also have categories of what we call short-term or temporary employees. Those also do not really change in our merit system. They're just called limited term employees. Substitute employees get called limited term employees. The same restrictions that you currently have pretty much get you in the merit system.
Temporary employees?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I was actually looking for a place to shoehorn it in, so whoever sent that in, thank you. So hourlies. First and foremost, I don't even know what that term means. You should know. This is covered right now under the law, under the 88003. That's your law you're currently under. It says you can have 2 kinds. You can have a substitute in a vacant position for up to 60 days, or you can have them covering someone who has a legitimate out. The second thing you can have is you can have a short-term employee one time for up to 195 days in 1 year. Those are your 2 options. And then I agree with Robert, student workers would not be impacted. That's what you get. So when you move over to a merit, you get a little bit more freedom with some of that. You get limited term employees, which covers substitutes like Robert said, it's for up to 6 months. And so there is some freedom there. If the district is waiting for those eligibility lists, they have some freedom. But other than that, they have to go through the commission. There should not be hundreds of hourly employees. They should be in the unit with you, full classified employees, enjoying the same rights, benefits, and burdens we all do. It's the right thing.
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions coming up next about the commissioner position. So this question says, if there is no oversight of a personnel commissioner, is the only way to remove an unfit commissioner to wait out the 3-year term?
I'm glad we heard this question. So sometimes you hear this. So they are a 3-year term. And there are ways, there's a legal process to remove them if that were to be necessary. But yet those 3-year terms are staggered. So that means every year, one commissioner is up. There's no year in which no one is up for reappointment. And so I'm sure if the district's appointee wasn't doing what they need to do, the district would reappoint them, would not appoint them. And I can guarantee you, if the CSEA appointee isn't doing what we need to do, we would not appoint them. And the same goes for the neutral. I would expect the parties and the pressure from the unit would not be to put people in that spot that aren't working for us. This is your union saying this is a better process for our members. That's fair.
Thank you. Removing unfit commissioners.
So you're asking us how to wait 3 years. There is a technical legal process to remove a personnel commissioner, just like there is a board trustee member. But it's very costly, it's very difficult, and none of you are going to have the financial means, nor is it ever done. So for all intents and purposes, you're stuck with the commissioner for the 3 years.
Okay, so I can project my response. Okay, so the next question then says, you mentioned a personnel commissioner can't be an employee or board of trustee. If an appointed personnel commissioner is a retired employee receiving benefits, pension benefits, is that a conflict of interest?
No, a retired person from this college or any other school district or community college can be a personnel commissioner. This cannot be a current employee, and it cannot be a current trustee.
Yeah, I would generally agree with Robert. I do want to say this, for conflict of interest in the entity and the world we live in, it's a government code 1090. You essentially have to be a fiduciary to a district making decisions which go in your own back pocket. That's what the conflict of interest law says. But I am aware of some concern that has come forward related to someone concerned an ex-retiree will be on the commission or be a PC director or whatever that is. Let me be clear. You decide. It's the membership. I have no idea if you vote in the merit system who your commissioner will be, because it won't be my decision. It'll be your decision. So CSEA has a policy, and our policy is that it goes to the members during the chapter meeting and the members decide. It has to be ratified by the membership by majority vote.
Thank you, and we'll start again over here. So it says, you mentioned a personnel commission establishes annual classification studies and compensation studies for existing job descriptions, and employees may receive an increase in salary. If the study shows employees are overpaid for performing the job, will they be reclassified to a lower pay range?
That's not the nature of inflation or CPI. So I've worked for CSEA 4 field offices up and down the state. I've probably been in over 100 school districts and community colleges in my career. It's just something I've never seen. What tends to happen when there's a question is you look for an adjustment, you handle it bargaining to figure out what's happened to this job. Because it's usually something obsolete has been taken out, you figure it out. So if it's something that you work out with the employer in bargaining, but the commission would have zero authority to make any kind of adjustment like that, we would work with the employer.
So this is a prime example of a promise of what a personnel commission can do that really means nothing. Yes, they can do a salary study, they can suggest classification structures, but none of that gets done without negotiation between your union and the district. Now, you go into collective bargaining agreement, I don't know how often here, but maybe every 3 years, every year, and I would assume, like is the case at Citrus College, that your CSEA bargaining unit does a salary survey, and they come to the bargaining table with some data, and the district does the same thing. So having this personnel commission generate some data for the parties to use without the authority to unilaterally implement it seems to be something that really is of no benefit. And I agree, there is no way a personnel commission can unilaterally reduce your wages, just like they can't unilaterally increase your wages.
Thank you. Our next question says, currently promoted employees do not go through a probationary period for their promotion. Does the merit system change that? Many ed codes that pertain to the merit system mention demotions. Please explain.
So the issue of a new probationary period based on promotion. The commission again could not unilaterally impose such a rule, which is a very common rule, by the way. Okay, not just the merit system districts, but in others, where if you promote, you serve a shortened probationary period. It doesn't mean you lose your rights to your other job, but there is that. But the commission would have no authority to promulgate any rules changing what you currently have, which is in your contract. Oh, I'm sorry, demotion, real quick. Demotion is considered disciplinary action currently, and it would be the same thing under the merit system.
Same question?
Yeah, actually, I agree with Robert on this. I don't have a whole lot to add. Demotion just now would go through, the commission would be the final binding decision. So that is the difference from your current system where that would go under the advisory decision from the hearing officer to your board. But that's the only thing I would really clarify from this answer. I agree.
All right, so our next question, we'll start over here, I think speaks to the permanence of this decision. It asks, when was the last time a district petitioned and was successful in getting out of the merit system? Yeah.
So I believe the districts that were mentioned were over 10 years ago. And so we actually had a district come. So we have a district who got rid of the merit system, waited 15 years, and they're like, oh, that was a bad idea. Yeah, nepotism, that hiring practices, everything that they said that they were promised. When we get rid of the merit system, all these things will naturally change. They got rid of it, and ouch, they voted it back this year. And they just reestablished a personnel commission. So we know it works. We know that it is effective, and we know that employees want it. And I should also tell you, there are about 10 districts up and down the state right now that are considering to re-implement the merit system, including one of those districts that she mentioned.
So Barstow Community College District was the last of the community colleges to leave the merit system. But I think the more important thing to ask yourself is, why haven't there been any new commit merit systems since 1978? And I won't repeat all the reasons I think I gave you for that. Nepotism is an interesting issue because it's something the Personnel Commission will have no authority over whatsoever. We have board policies and procedures that prohibit nepotism. Nepotism under the law is very specific. It means that you can't hire someone who is a family member if you are going to have supervisory authority or any influence over that person. It doesn't mean that your family members can never be hired by North Orange Community College District. That would be patently unfair. So the issue of nepotism is already covered under the policies and procedures, and the commissions wouldn't offer anything.
Okay, we just have a couple of minutes left, so we're going to try and get in another couple of questions. So this question asks, if you are an employee that is not in CSEA or not a part of a CSEA group, what input do you have towards appointing one of the three commissions? We're starting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bargaining unit group organization, CSEA, is entrusted with the authority to appoint the personnel commissioner. So if you are a classified manager or a confidential employee, you wouldn't have direct input into that unless CSEA would open that up to you. That would be their decision. You would have some input, theoretically, to the district team in terms of who the board may appoint. The ones who are the most vulnerable in this whole process are the classified managers and confidential employees, because your board policies and procedures could be rewritten by the merit system, by the personnel commission. All those topics that we put up on the screen for you, those are all things in which the commission may promulgate rules that would directly change or impact classified managers and confidential employees.
A non-CSEA member.
Most vulnerable. I actually think it's a huge benefit for classified managers and our confidential employees. So understand that even though a confidential or classified manager is not in the bargaining unit, they are full-fledged classified employees and are owed all the due process under the law that bargaining unit members are required. The only difference is they're at will. So at the end of the day, the judge, jury, and executioner is going to be the same person who is charging you with the discipline. And so what's going to end up happening in a personnel commission is you actually go to that third party to adjudicate your issues. That is patently fair. That is not going to change the law. It's going to give you additional strength.
So the input also that you have under the Brown Act is you actually have a chance to publicly comment on the commission before they're appointed to the personnel commission. So you do have input. It will be on the minutes and it will be recorded. So you do have that public input.
All right, we've got time for one last question. So we'll start over here and then back over there. So it says, the state is moving away from placing students into courses based on testing because of weak correlation between test results and program completion and success, while having a negative impact on minority students. Why is testing under the merit system a good fit for employees?
If only that were true. So there is way too much standardized testing in schools for students. I think we all agree on that. And whether or not the state's moving away from what's happened at the feds is it continues to happen. So for purposes of this, that's really a different conversation than one we're having here. Here's what you need to know. There is no requirement for a test. What they tend to do is more technical jobs have assessments. So it could be a writing assessment if you're in a clerical job and you're supposed to write for a living. If you're a maintenance and operations guy doing HVAC, it would be a practical test. You have to show me you know how to work on a condenser. That's what we're talking about. And so I have 100% faith that our members can handle those things because we already do the job. And so that's how that all works. I have zero qualms about that.
Can you just repeat it? Sorry.
Sure. So it says the state is moving away from placing students into courses based on test results because of weak correlation between test results and program completion and success, while being a negative impact on minority students. Why is testing under the merit system good for employees?
The answer is testing will not be good for employees, just the same as it's not good for students. The reason why you're moving away from it is because there's no correlation between the test score and your success. I'm going to tell you how it would really be, even though it's a nice theory that you wouldn't have a written test. I was actually the district director of the Personnel Commission for Long Beach Community College District from 2006 to 2014. And every single classified bargaining unit recruitment required a written test. In most cases, it would also then require a practical test. And then if you were rated in the top ranks of those tests, you may be lucky enough to get an oral panel interview. Additionally, if you look on the websites for Ventura, Santa Monica, Long Beach Community College District, you will find that only between 7 and 11% of those who apply for a job are ever placed on an eligibility list.
All right, so I'd like to thank all of our presenters for doing a wonderful job today. We're going to extend around the applause for them. Appreciate it. Thanks you all so much for coming out to make sure that you're making informed decisions and for all of the questions. Like I say, we will work to answer all the questions we didn't get to live and make those answers available for you as well. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, can we thank our moderator, and he's one of our brothers from the United Chapter.
Round down.
All right, 2 more to go.
Yeah,
2 more.
exactly, yeah.
You're buying lunch, right, Robert?
And press too much.
I'm just hit the on off button, making sure it's a single button. There we go.
It's easy, but I managed to screw it up, I'm sure.
Yeah, the one that this here. Yeah. All right. Great. Oh, man, that's great.
I just want our rescue work, and I wanted it.
All right. Well, it's great to meet you all.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
Also, we're converting it to
We should be, so that's the stop button. So go ahead and stop button.